Hi, my name is Michael James Ott, and I am offering to serve you as your president starting in January of 2021. Of course, in order to do that, I'll need to get elected to the office. And in order to do that, millions and millions and millions of you are going to have to cast your ballots for me. And of course, you won't be willing to do that unless you get to know me better. So I'm making a series of short videos. And the intent of those videos is to introduce myself, allow you to get to know me, know what I think and how I feel, and what I plan to do. And this one I call Truth. And so the video, Truth. Hi, I'm Michael James Ott, and I'm offering to serve you as your president. I want to speak to you about the truth, and to help me with that I have this little tool here. It's a US dollar coin. I have to admit I didn't even know these things existed until I tried to buy a soda out of a machine, and it refused to vend the soda, and so instead of returning my dollar bill, it returned this coin. It's a bit small for you to see on the camera, so I've made a scale replica of it, and here it is. And I'll use this to try to illustrate my point here. So, the truth. You know, no matter who you are, and whoever you're watching this at this moment, you were born where you were born, you lived where you lived, you had the parents that you had, your siblings, neighbors, friends, life experiences over the years, regardless of how old you are. And that has gotten you to the place where you now look at me and you look at this coin, and you see a likeness of George Washington. If you live in this country, you probably, dollar bills, you know his likeness well, George Washington right here labeled on the coin. And so if I were to say, based on my experiences, based on where I was born and my siblings, and in the end, where I'm standing, in my perception, I see an image of the Statue of Liberty. And you look at that and you say, that is not the Statue of Liberty. And I say, that's not George Washington, that's the Statue of Liberty. And pretty soon we can be, calling each other idiots and standing on other sides of the street from each other, opposite sides of the street, with placards and throwing bricks and stones at each other and screaming, "You idiot, it's Washington." And no, it's the Statue of Liberty. Washington, Liberty, Washington, Liberty. Well, the truth is very complex, and it very much depends on your perspective. And in fact, the coin paradox is that both are true. Okay? Both are true. You see, these issues that we face, the truth, it's too complex to fit on a bumper sticker. It's too complex to talk about in a 10-second commercial. It takes thought and reasoning and time to consider all the different aspects of an issue. So, for and against, pro and con, good and bad. And so, you're just saying, well, what does this have to do with reality? Well, the truth is that the truth is very complex. So let's take an example, okay, an issue facing our society. So there's a lot of discussion about gun control, Second Amendment rights, and so on. So what does that mean? Well, let's say that you're a proponent of gun ownership and maybe a very strong advocate of it. So you would say, hey, I would definitely think guns are a great thing to have as a possibility for ownership. I want to protect that very, very much. But even as the strongest of gun advocates, you would have to acknowledge that, it's not appropriate for everybody to have a gun. For example, if there was a six-month-old baby, you wouldn't have a loaded pistol and cocked and ready to fire and put that in the baby crib with the baby. That would be crazy. You would understand, no, that's crazy. You would know that, or say that, oh, this person, they've been in jail multiple times for very aggressive criminal behavior against other people. They've done all kinds of heinous things. No, we should not allow them to have a gun, right? But on the other side of the coin, let's say that you're an opponent of gun ownership. Let's say that you really don't like them and don't want them in your home and so on. But even so, even as a very vocal opponent of gun ownership, you would say and have to acknowledge that, if the situation were so severe and so dire that perhaps your family or friends were being threatened or actually being harmed in a great horrific way, that you wouldn't want to have a gun to try to stop the horrific things from happening to your family. And so the issue of gun ownership is not a whenever or a never. It's somewhere in between. Somewhere in between whenever and never. And so what are we going to do about that? Well, what we will do is we will sit down and we will, in just a few days, it won't take more than a few days, we'll talk about all the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, the for and against, for gun ownership and all the aspects around it. And then instead of screaming at each other from different sides of the street, we'll walk to the center of the street, shake hands and say, okay, we have this issue. Guns are a powerful, powerful thing, both for good and for bad. And where are the lines here? What is a reasonable approach to allowing gun ownership where appropriate and preventing gun ownership where it's not appropriate? And that's just one example. And I call this the coin paradox because it is really true. These issues depend on where you're from, how you were raised, the genetics that you got when you were born, everything about your life right up to this moment gives you the perspective on this issue. And mine does the same. That doesn't make your perspective or my perspective any less true. In fact, they are both true. And what it really means is that between us, we have to come together and come to some kind of middle ground. And that's what we should be doing. And so in my administration, if I'm elected, what we're going to do is pick up these coins, one issue at a time, whether it's taxation, fair taxation, or gun control, or election reform, or abortion. We're going to talk about these significant, complex issues in terms of the coin paradox. And step by step, over a course of some days, we will very carefully frame the truth, both good and bad, for and against. And based on the amalgam of that truth, we're going to move forward with whatever makes sense to you, the citizens of this country. I would be remiss in not mentioning something else. I personally think that the coin paradox is a very powerful ally for you as an individual, especially if you're in a relationship and there's some kind of argument or disagreement about a particular issue. Because the same thing is true between you and me and the discussion around Second Amendment rights and gun ownership as between you and your neighbor and a tree that's on the lot line. Or you and your parents over some kind of financial issue or care for them or for you or whatever. So if you're in a relationship and you're having a difficult time with a particular significant issue and the relationship is worth anything to you at all, I'd strongly recommend that you take out a coin and you sit down and say, okay, from your perspective, what do you see? From my perspective, this is what I see. And write it down and then talk about, what is a clever place, a reasoned place in the middle to come to some agreement. You're saying, well, why do I care? Why do I care about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Why do I care? Why do I want that? Why is that important? Well, because it leads to reasoned and good decisions. Let's say that the issue at hand for you is buying a home, all right? So you've looked at this house, you like it, it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you like the price, you like where it is, and it turns out that the basement is finished, and there's a nice area down there, and you envision this home theater area, and a place to entertain friends and neighbors, and so this is great. Well, you're making that decision and you're assuming that everything is pro. Everything is, here we go, this is great. But what if, unbeknownst to you, the basement actually floods every 3 to 5 years, and the previous owner has not been forthright with telling you about that? Okay, now you want to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because that's how you're going to make the proper decision about whether to buy the home or whether the price is right. You may say, there's all kinds of options. If you know that that's an issue, there's options. Like, okay, it's going to cost me $30,000 to waterproof the basement. So the price is good, but I'm going to have to pay $30,000 more. Or I'm going to talk to the current owner and say, hey, I need you to discount this because the basement leaks and I'm going to have to do this leak proofing. So hey, give me $20,000 off the price of the house or whatever. I mean, but the reality is, it's very important to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because then you make the good decisions, right? You have all the facts, and you're not doing things out of ignorance. You're not doing things because you are unknowing of the truth. So, in summary, what we need to do as a nation is pick up these issues, the significant issues before us in our society, one by one, examine them, for and against, pro and con, good and bad, and some facts that are in between. And then with that solid foundation of all the truth, not a biased truth, but all the truth, then we can use that to move forward on each and every issue that faces us. From my perspective, I'm very happy to tell you how I perceive the coin, but it shouldn't matter to you too much, because I swear to you, with absolute truth, if you are willing as a people, as a nation, to examine the whole truth, I am more than happy to try to execute on whatever you want going forward. We can review the current laws. Are they adequate? Do they need to be tweaked in some way, some additional laws added? Do they need to be thrown completely away and new law put in place? Federal law versus state law? Whatever you, the citizens, want, that's what I want. I just want you to do it. Do whatever it is, make your decisions, make your recommendations, based on the amalgam of the whole truth. So as I said earlier, my name is Michael James Ott. I'm offering to serve you as your president starting in January of 2020. So I put to you a question and a challenge. Will you take my hand? And will you walk with me, side by side, to a better and brighter tomorrow?